All right, how you doing out there? Captain Jack here, and this is the premiere episode of the Black Shield and Galleon Wheel podcast. I'm glad that we had some music going out there. As we go on through, we're going to make sure we tighten that up. I have a friend of mine that I call the voice. It's not like the voice that you had in, what is it? If you build it, he will come. No. This guy has got that all over. You'll hear from him once he starts with me on that. But we are going live, and I thank you there. I got Ed Winchell, so we got an audience here. Rusty. Rusty Hilger is joining us for the premiere edition of the Black Shield and Galleon Wheel podcast. Rusty, how are you doing, sir?
Pretty cool. I'm down here in Southern California waiting on the season to start, Jack. I'm already fired up and ready.
Well, I mean, everybody in Raider Nation is ready. In fact, I'm going to. I don't have to worry about it because I have on behind me. I have on the other phone number. That's for tonight's show. You can't call this number. The number you see in the back. You can't call that number because I'm not monitoring that number. We will later on for the You Don't Know Jack About Sports broadcast. That'll be at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific. And hopefully we'll have some folks come join us as well. It is difficult, but remember, all Raider Nation needs to remember we got to get their butts off of Facebook, Rusty. We need to get them over here to YouTube so that they can talk to you through the comments. Ed Winchell is already here, and I tell you, Ed Winchell is probably one of my top 5 consumers out there, so I know that he will talk your ear off on comments, so it'll be good. It'll be good to hear from you. First off, again, Rusty Hilger, who is a Raiders quarterback, and I want to get all this information correct. I went out, and of course I went to the sources for the Raiders, and I'm going, he was drafted in 85. Was it the 5th round, yeah. Dusty? Rusty?
It was actually the 6th, yeah.
Okay, 6th round in Oakland, and you were there from 85 through 87, and trust me, you were the man out there. You were in that era. I hate to say it, it was the forgotten era. I mean, unfortunately for me, Rusty, when you were playing, I was actually over in the Philippines from that time, so I didn't get a chance to really see any of the Raider games live or even on TV because I was at the mercy of the Armed Forces Network, so I missed a lot of the games, yeah. and it was unfair, but it was great.
It was just yeah, there was no internet. There was no, ESPN was just getting started. We just moved from Oakland down to Los Angeles. Al was searching for a new stadium. You had Mark Wilson, who came in as the highly touted, highest paid quarterback ever, but you had Plunkett on the bench. You had Wilson, who plays the whole season there in 82, but Plunkett ended up taking and winning the Super Bowl.
Right.
So all that was going on at the same time. When we had this old regime of, some of the greatest players that ever put on a Raider uniform were guys like, Art Shell and Gene Upshaw and Dave Dalby and Jim Otto, and all these guys are just retiring at the end of their careers, and along with some of the guys that were newcomers, even from Denver, like Rod Barton was there. You had Jerry Robinson that just came in. You had Matt Williams, linebacker. You had Mike Haynes, an old pro, a Hall of Famer at one corner. You had Marcus Allen at the other side. And then Al brings in Bo Jackson in 1987, which was, to upend everything. So it was this unusual time where you had some of the greatest players still, but they were all guys that were 12, 13, 14, 15 years of age.
Right. And I tell you, I didn't mean it just, I was actually going to start with your good, I would say, good. That's a bad adjective. Your very monumental career out at Oklahoma State, but we'll get back to that since we've already jumped into the Raiders. How was it being the young buck in that locker room with, with Plunkett and Wilson, and you're sitting there with all of the rigmarole that's going on in Los Angeles? and there was a lot of turmoil at that time. Already moved down from Oakland. They had gone down to L.A. and that they had won. In fact, I remember when they won. I was up in college and I got ponded for I got thrown in the pond over in behind the University of Florida. I had to get out real quick before the Gators got me because the Raiders went and kicked the Redskins' butt, which the year prior the Redskins had rolled over the Dolphins, and I made sure all the Dolphin fans on my floor remembered that. One of the reasons why I got ponded. So it was a successful locker room, but there was a lot of turmoil going on in here. And I don't want you to say anything that would get you in trouble with anybody, but give me a little bit of an interjection of what it was like for Rusty Hilger, straight out of Oklahoma State, to go into that locker room with all of those great players.
Yeah, well, that was pretty impossible, really. Because think of it this way: we went from being a 59-man roster, and then the year I show up, they moved it to a 53-man roster. So everybody looked at me straight up and said, "You got no chance to make it as a quarterback. We don't even keep two quarterbacks." You remember David Hum? David Hum was one of those guys who come to training.
Right.
He's an 11-year player with the Redskins. Cut the training camp and go home. And then if one of the guys got hurt, Wilson or Plunkett, then David Hum would come back. Well, it was just before that year that Hum retired. So now we're going from a 59-man roster down to a 53-man roster. I got no chance of making the team. Everybody told me that. That's okay. I don't know the sure I thought the leaders are. We go out to the Oxnard, California. It's our first year moving from Santa Rosa to Oxnard at the training camp. And right the first year, when all the guys show up, they take me over to a dive bar. All the players, 120 players, come to training camp back then. There's no doubt 90 now, but 120 back then showed up. And we go out to a dive bar, and they hand me a pitcher of beer and say, "Drink it." I don't like drinking pitchers of beer. I didn't like beer. I could drink a little whiskey, a little tequila. But now I drink the pitcher of beer. I don't know how I did, but I got the whole thing down. I show up the next morning at my locker, and it's Snake Jr. on my locker. They typed over my name and put Snake Jr. on there. And I said, "What is this?" They said, "Look, you're the first quarterback since Snake to be able to drink a pitcher of beer." I'm not kidding. I think I made the team because I drank a pitcher of beer.
Hey, whatever it takes, man. Nowadays, if you're a Snake Jr., fantastic, because we definitely needed somebody with moxie, somebody that could go out there and, hey, if it takes a pitcher of beer to make the team, then so be it. At least you ingratiated yourself positively with a very, very veteran roster.
Oh man, I love those guys, and I love partying with them. I love hanging out with them. I loved everything about the Raiders. I wanted to be a Raider since I was a kid. I love the silver and black. I love what they stood for. Look, it wasn't in 1987, my last year. That was my kind of my first year on the field. Think about it. We went in 1987. I get on the field the first time we go on strike after 2 games. We're 2-0 and we go on strike.
Yeah, actually, that's a great segue.
After the season, I walk in the locker room and I told him I have a little thing going on with my left knee. Can we go take a look at it? Yeah, we go take a look at it, all right. And Rosenfeld opens me up, and I got no cartilage on the left knee. I'm done. And they wrap me up and send me down the street. That's it. The Raider days are over. It's not because I couldn't play or this or that. It's because I didn't have any more cartilage on top of the bone. I was history. Now, I was lucky because the Detroit Lions called me up 4 or 5 weeks later and said, "Hey, we want you." I went in there and flunked the physical, but they signed me anyway. I got the MVP in Detroit in 1988, but then I cut after the season because of the knee. But look what happened. My quarterback coach for the Raiders, Larry Kinnan, who was the offensive coordinator, he'd taken it from Indianapolis, and he brought me there with him as the backup. And then Tom Flores got fired in '88 too when they brought me. And Flores took over in Seattle. And Larry Kinnan and I got hired in Seattle. And I hung out another couple of years as the backup in Seattle.
You know
why? I knew what I was doing, but I couldn't play. I couldn't play the game. My knees were done.
But the thing is
But
that
that's how it all goes down. And when the Raiders, you know, I don't blame the Raiders. I blame my knee.
but the fact is
But
that, you know,
think about this. Think about this. Come, Jack. There's a transition. These guys just won the Super Bowl.
yeah.
Had just came off a Super Bowl victory. I mean, I'm telling you, but they were all old guys, and a lot of them didn't get to show. You know, where was Ted Hendricks? He's got to retire. You know, all of a sudden you got great players like how about Cliff Branch, one of the greatest receivers ever? Now Cliff's not, you know, Cliff's on the team, but he's not a starter anymore. You know, we're bringing in guys like Jesse Hector and Mervyn Fernandez and James Lofton.
Well,
so it's just different. And guys have to retire. We all have to remember that they have to retire. And Al Davis was incredible prior to free agency, but now free agency guys start moving around.
Right. The Raiders always had that deep threat, and like I said, all at those times, like you said, if it wasn't Cliff, it was Swervin Mervin, it was Willie Gault, it was Hester out of Florida State. So there was always somebody to throw to down on the sidelines, and you know, I think James Jett was around during the round. That
until later, and Swervin was a great player, and a matter of fact, all the guys you mentioned were really talented. But come on, Cliff Branch, he stood out like a sore thumb. Cliff Branch was the man among men, and then you got Blitikoff on the other side. Where's he at? He's gone. We have Dopey Williams, great player. Dopey was right. And then we had Todd Christensen at tight end,
who actually led the NFL in receptions when he was there, because that was the target for the Raider quarterbacks at the time, was throwing it to Todd.
That's right. Yeah, and Todd was a great route runner. But I'm just saying, we couldn't get that older team. They needed to get to. Look, we had the home field advantage in 1985 when they got there. We went, I think it was 11-4, and we had home field advantage all the way through the playoffs. And the damn team, the New England Patriots show up at the Coliseum as the wild card team and beat our ass.
I believe that was the Tuiasosopo, not Marcus, but either his father or his uncle. No, I'm sorry, Mosi Tutupu. I apologize. The Mosi Tutupu show, where he had a touchdown and he also had like a special teams turnover. And if it wasn't for Tutupu, the Raiders would have had a good chance of beating the Patriots. But Tutupu, I remember that game just like it was yesterday, other than throwing out the Tuiasosopo. No. It was Mosi Tutupu. And they surprised, shocked, bewildered the Raiders. First round knockout in that game. It was horrible to watch.
It was horrible to be there on the sidelines.
I'm sure it was. Now, what year was?
They were up like 20-0, and they came back and beat us with 3 interceptions, 21-20.
Like I said, I remember that game rather well. I couldn't believe.
No. Is what we did. Yeah.
Yep. And yeah. Now, what year was with the Raiders?
Say it again.
The playoff loss to the Patriots, what year?
1985.
Okay, so that was year one then, right?
That was my first year. We didn't go back. We didn't go back. Yeah. At that point in time, it was over.
Right. And I do remember that watching, or actually, I tell you, watching being the operative word, because again, I couldn't even see it at the time. But the very next year, the Raiders were, I believe they were like 8-1 or something like that. And then they proceeded to lose like their last 3 or 4 games. I remember one of them was against, I believe it was the Eagles game, where Marcus fumbled the ball. And because of that game, they missed the playoffs as well. And I'm listening again, pre all the internet and all the other ways you can scheme to win a game. I'm listening on AFRTS radio in my my room in the Philippines, and I'm close to tears knowing that the Raiders are not going to the playoffs because that they blew a game against the Eagles.
Is that the only reason we didn't go in 86? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it wasn't the only reason why we were going, but it was a collection of a bunch of losses at the end of the season. It was kind of like in the mid '90s when the Raiders were like I think they were 8-2, and then Hostetler goes out. And he ended up being 8-8. It was just a collection of losses at the end of the season that prevented them from going to the playoffs. But again, Rusty, you were there. Give me a kind of like a synopsis as to what might have happened on that team, or was it a collection of things in the locker room that just didn't that kind of reared its ugly head during the play?
Heck no, it's just real simple. I say it over and over and over again. From that team that won the Super Bowl in the early '80s, they all started to retire, my friend. That collection of guys, look, you had your Howie Longs, you got your Marcus Allens. These are Hall of Famers. Mike Dean, King, Lester Hayes. I mean, I could go on. This whole team was star-studded. And that these guys were at the end of their career and they were done. They couldn't play anymore.
But you were there during the turmoil. That was kind of like the beginning of the turmoil with Bo being there and Marcus kind of being pushed to the side. And I'm not going to get into the unspoken rules here, but how that might have been a detriment to the locker room when Bo came in there and then Eric Dickerson came in there. Roger Craig was in there. And I'm not sure going as far as the time, but obviously Marcus took that very, very hard, but I guess that might have caused the schism in the locker room as well. I'm not putting words in your mouth. I'm just wondering for.
I to be honest with you, look, when Bo Jackson first showed up there, it was the funniest thing I ever saw. Nobody gave Bo Jackson credit. He's a baseball player. We didn't know him. No one seen him ever run the football before. And so I'm on the field. I'm the starting quarterback when Bo shows up and into camp there. He didn't go to training camp with us. I can't remember what week it was exactly, but there was animosity before he ever hit the locker room. And that came from all across the team, not just Marcus. It was everybody up there on the field. Nobody believed at that time. Remember, nobody believed a guy could show up and play baseball and football.
Exactly.
I'm kind of the first person to do it, if you know what I mean. And after that, after about the same time that what's his name? Where am I drawing a blank on the defensive back?
Deion Sanders.
You got it. Nobody believed it could happen, and nobody believed that Bo Jackson would be a player that could step out on the field and step into an NFL uniform without going through elite training like that. But I'm just telling you, Bo was a really special athlete, really special, and everybody knows that. I don't need to tell them that. Everybody knows that. But we didn't know it. We never saw him on the football field before. And so Tom it was kind of funny. Tom, Flores, I don't mean to, the coach, but Tom had, the first day he came out, we were already in the middle of practice on the team period, and he had Bo loosen up over on the sideline. He's running up and down the side, getting loose, and he walks into the huddle to me, and Tom looks at me, and we were about the 40-yard line, about 60 yards away from the end zone. Al Davis was standing against the goalposts down there like he always does. He's taking all of it in. So what does Tom do? He comes over to me in the huddle, and he says, look, I just want you to throw it deep to Bo. I said, what? He says, just line him up out to the right and just throw it deep. I thought, well, that's not much of a play, but okay, we'll do it. Well, he lined up against Lester Hayes out there, right? And we split him out to this wasn't a real play. We didn't call it play in the huddle. We just said, okay, we're throwing it deep on two, ready, break. This is a true story. Now, Tom knew that animosity. He knew that the whole team was not looking forward to this. He didn't believe in it. So what did he do? He lined this guy up there. He knew what this guy could do, and he tells me to throw it deep. So what do? I heave it 60 yards, which is way further than a normal deep go route, which is usually 40 to 45 yards is the completion point. I heave this sucker all the way to the end zone. More than 60 yards in the air, the ball travels. Why? Because it gave Bo a chance to kick in an extra gear. And Bo at that time ends up getting about 3 or 4 steps on Lester to make this catch in the end zone. Right away. You talk about hushing the crowd. This was an incredible feat. Nobody could even believe what they just saw.
Yeah,
this guy had another gear. At 235 pounds, he had another gear. And then what we saw him do on the field a couple of weeks later in Seattle was just over the top.
I tell you, Rusty, you are so awesome. You're giving me my segues. I was going to say, tell me about the game with Bo versus the Boz, and you went right there for me. I'm just going to shut up and let you go.
Even the Boz. Boz is a good friend of mine. Matter of fact, I saw him a Christmas ago. We did a deal together, and I told him straight to his face, Boz, look, there's no linebacker in the game that could have taken on Bo at that point, stopping. This was not a Bo Boz thing. Let me tell you the replay. Let me take the replay that you guys have to take in. When Bo hit the sidelines and outran everybody to the end zone and ran up the tunnel.
Yes, sir.
Do you know that those defensive backs that were chasing him had never seen him run before, and so they all took angles to try to cut him off at the sideline, and none of them took the right angle, and he smoked them all. That means he's way the hell faster than anything they had ever seen before.
They took.
Yeah, special now, guys. Bo Jackson, we don't win in Seattle. I don't know if you go back and look. We do not win in Seattle. They're so loud there. We can't hear. You can't hear yourself talking. Get into the huddle to call a play. Nobody understands the play. You can't change the play at the line of scrimmage. It's impossible. It's just too loud inside that concrete stadium. We didn't even need to change the play. All we needed to do was hand it to Bo, and he single-handedly won the game for us. Don't belittle that. Don't let me say that nobody else showed up that day. Just let me just tell you that we couldn't beat Seattle in Seattle. We could beat him in LA. We couldn't beat him in Seattle. And this guy did it. Wow. Coach Flores put a play in for him against the Denver Broncos. And the play was toss right, Bo go left. I said, Coach, how do you run a toss sweep to the right and the only player that's going left is Bo? What kind of play is that? Well, it was for that crazy ass linebacker that they had that individually came to the Raiders a couple of years later. He used to chase the play down. We toss sweep to the right at about the 45-yard line, 55 or 60 for the touchdown. It's out there on YouTube. You'll see it. We toss sweep to the right. Bo cuts back to the left, all by himself, and then jumps over two players to get into the end zone. It was an incredible feat. Nobody calls a play like that. Nobody draws up a play like that.
Toss right, Bo runs left. I'm gonna when
they block the toss sweep, but Bo, hey, just take it 2 steps and go back the other direction all by yourself. What? Okay.
That's
what does he do? He scores.
That's got to be a positive thing for you, knowing that you have Jackson in the backfield, Marcus is there as well, knowing that all you have to do is if the offensive line can just hold their blocks for maybe 1.5, 2 is a luxury. All they have to do is hold their blocks for about a second and a half, and everybody's going to be wonderful watching 34 or 32 march down the field.
It was simply off the chain. And to see Marcus, to have Marcus back there and thinking we only had one ball. What are you going to do? Marcus wasn't happy. Bo didn't know all the plays. He doesn't even know how to line up. He needs to be which way to go. All he had to do was give it to him. Because he's that special. There's some players that show up every once in a while in a lifetime, and he's one of them. He's just one of those once-in-a-lifetime type of guys. That career ended way too short.
Right.
If you think about it, at the end of '87, that season, we struggled so much that Al Davis fired Tom Flores. I had my knee issue. I'm done. I can't play anymore. They know that. I go from a franchise quarterback to out the back door without any words. No, there was no. Let's see if we. No, you're done. When you have bone on bone knees, it's over. So all of a sudden, I'm in the game, and I start. My career's over. Now, as a backup, I went ahead and held on for another 4 years. But I stayed with Tom Flores. I stayed with those guys as they moved around. So the Raiders hit turmoil at that stage. They brought in Mike Shanahan.
Yeah.
You talk about being different. What about Art Shell? All those guys. Wow. So now you've got this whole team that won the Super Bowl in 82, 83, and this team is gone. There is no more Jim Plunkett on the roster. There's no more, Henry Lawrence and Bruce Davis, Kurt Marsh, Shelby Jordan. There's no more Cliff Branch. There's no more, Todd Christensen, Rod Martin, Matt Millen, Jeff Barnes, Lester Hayes, Mike Haynes. They're all gone. Chris Barr. What about Ray Guy? Don't overlook the importance of Ray Guy. When you have that spent all their work and all their life in under an Al Davis regime, that he put that together, and then in 1982, 83, they started working under free agency. They could start moving around. I wasn't used to that. That's not how he built his team. It's hard building a team when you got, an influx of 10 or 15 new guys coming in every year.
Now, if I can ask you, Rusty, what are some of your I want to say favorite or most memorable times with Mr. Davis that you're allowed to go into?
He's just a classic. He was probably, in my opinion, the greatest mind of the first half of the NFL game. In other words, when he showed up in 1962 and 3, I think he elevated the NFL to another level. I think he pushed the NFL for greatness, and he pushed the Raiders for greatness. And that was really unique. Let me give you an example of what I'm trying to say, okay?
Please.
Up until recently, there's a lot of teams in the NFL that never, ever tried to win a championship. Al Davis tried to win a championship every freaking year. He spent every dollar that he could spend to try to bring in the best talent from around the country, regardless of where they came from and what kind of career they had. He shopped it. He stayed until 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning watching film at his place. He never shut it off. He didn't play golf. He went on the weekends and went into what I call massage parlors.
I was waiting. I said, there it is. I know it's coming. Go to the Asian house where you have your shower table. I got you.
He didn't play golf. He didn't have a side job. He didn't have a side. He didn't have anything, brother. He had one thing, and that was to win world championships with the Raiders. He didn't care about anything else. And if you cared about anything else, it pissed him off. Okay, now I found that special because when I showed up, I knew that I had a team that was geared for trying to win a championship. But listen, I'm telling you, I went to Detroit in 1988, and I saw the other end of that spectrum. The other end. What am I saying? And what I'm saying is we spent $60 million on player contracts, and when I got to Detroit, we spent maybe $6 million.
I was going to say, what was it like for playing for the Fords out in Detroit and being, I believe Barry Sanders was still with you at that time, correct? At least.
No, Barry hadn't even showed up yet. He didn't come till 89.
Okay, so was Billy Sims your running back back then?
No. That's what I'm saying. You can't go through it. We had one All-Pro on the roster, and he was the punter.
Wow, I'm trying to remember who the punter was in Detroit. You got me there. Jim Arnold? That's right. Okay.
They had a quarterback by the name of a nice kid, a good kid. They had a guy named Eric Hipple, and they had a kid named Chuck Long that got out of Iowa.
Right. Yep. Now, Hipple was out of Oklahoma, right?
They didn't have any what I'm saying to you is they didn't spend money to bring in talent all around that deal. And that's why Barry Sanders ended up retiring early. You want to be surrounded with great talent, and you want to know that you have a chance to win a Super Bowl. Well, listen, I saw it there. I played the worst team in football. When I left the Raiders, I ended up going to Detroit, getting an MVP there. I ended up going and hooking up with my Raiders quarterback coach and offensive coordinator in Indianapolis. Well, it was with Eric Dickerson and those guys, and they brought in Jeff George, and we were the worst team in football. And then I got to go to Seattle where Tom Flores took over as the general manager and head coach, and we were the worst team in football. So I have a little guy walk up to me one time in the locker room, an Asian guy. What's an Asian guy doing in the locker room? Back then they didn't have any Asian reporters, but this guy walks up to me and said, "Can I interview?" I said, "What do you want to interview me for?" And he said, "Because you're the only guy in the locker room who's been with the worst team in football for the past 3 years. And I want to know how this team stacks up against those other teams." Now, I didn't answer any of those questions. That would be a terrible interview to do, okay?
Good for you.
A terrible interview to show up in the paper the next day. You don't want that to be you. Yeah.
No, but that
is that when back then, Al Davis would spend every dime he could spend legally to bring in talent to make that team a world champion, and he was one of the few teams in the league, that would do that.
Al was the Raiders, and the Raiders was Al, and that's all Al wanted was for the Raiders to be successful, and he did everything in his power in order to make that happen.
100%.
Okay. Now, I tell you what.
Never had any ulterior motive in his mind. Never tried to tank a game. Never tried to take a season to get a first-round draft pick. Are you kidding me? This guy was special.
Now, Rusty, I would like to ask, because you brought up the name, Jeff George. Obviously, one of the most gifted, physically gifted quarterbacks, but always had a bad rap as to his. I don't want to say his demeanor. Let's just say his demeanor. But you saw Jeff George up close. Where would you rank Jeff George amongst his peer groups during that span as far as capability of a quarterback?
Yeah, no, he had great talent. He had a great arm strength. But everybody in the league, just about everybody in the league does. And I shouldn't say that. There's some guys that don't, and there's some guys who have a little better arm strength than others. But at the end of the day, most guys in the NFL, they have enough arm strength to play the game. But he had enough arm strength that he could actually throw the ball in the places where most guys couldn't throw them. As a matter of fact, he threw balls most of the time that coaches would never recommend. In other words, you're on the sideline, you're watching the guy make a play, he's making a throw, and you're going, no, yes. Don't throw it, don't do it. And then all of a sudden, boom, he gets in there for a touchdown. What's really crazy about him in his early career was that he had a hard time understanding the blocking. Look, when you play quarterback in the league, you've got to, in order to be great, you have to be able to manipulate not only the offense but the defense. What do I mean by that? You need to be able to know who the hell your guys are blocking, and if they're not going to be blocking and you need to change it, you got to change it. So I'll give you an example. If I want my running back to take a free release out into the pass pattern, well, if he's going to take a free release, that means he's not going to block. And if his man, that he was supposed to block, if you block it, his man comes, you don't have a blocker for him. That means you, as the quarterback, have to throw the ball to the running back right now, or a sight adjustment, they call it, to a different player. You got to get rid of the ball right now because he's got no block. And unfortunately, Jeff had a hard time picking that up his first year. He'd get hit in the mouth or in the back of the head a lot because he wouldn't see that blocking assignment or understand it. So although he was a great talent, he just needed a better supporting cast. And I keep telling people, and I told you this story earlier. If your supporting cast is not there, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Bo Jackson. I don't care who you are, Rocky Staubach. If you're Kenny Stabler, if your supporting cast isn't there, you're not going to do it, brother. You're not going to be able to pull it off. I don't care how good Baker Mayfield is. unless he has some great talent around him, he's just not going to be able to pull it off. I don't care how good Barry Sanders is, and we all know how good Barry was. Without the supporting cast, you can't pull it off. So with some guys, some owners are in the league. We're in the league just to make money, and some of them are in the league like Al to win championships. So where would you rather play? I can remember being on that football field before every game with the Raiders, and guys, no matter what team they were at, they would run out of the tunnel, and I would stand there right next to me as I was warming up, and I would hear the other players from the other team say, "Get me, Al, get me, Al, get me." In other words, get me the heck out of here, man. I'm tired of this. I want to play with a winner. I want to play with somebody who wants to win.
Well,
that's a big deal, man.
I was going to say, Rusty, you are aware that Al Davis is the reason why the Steelers won their 4 Super Bowls in the 70s. I'm not sure if you knew this or not, but because
was that the Terry Bradshaw? Was that the Terry Bradshaw move?
Yep, because Bradshaw wanted out of Pittsburgh so bad because he was behind Hanratty and Gillum, and he went to Al Davis, kind of like what you were saying, get me out, get me out, get me out of here. And he told Bradshaw, he goes, listen, I already got Stabler, LaMonica, and Blanda, 3 guys that definitely want to stay here and throw the ball. So there's no way I could put it. And he actually went over to Chuck Noll. He said, if you want to win, you better play that Bradshaw kid. And obviously the rest is history. So things could have been different.
I'm going to tell you. We're talking about supporting cast. Minjo Green. They had Franco Harris. They had Lynn Swan and Stallworth. I mean, this was a great football team. L.C. Greenwood. They were a great football team. They were a great team. All they needed was a quarterback to kind of put it all together.
Right, right.
Now, you bring in Terry Bradshaw without all that other talent and what he got.
Now, when you were there with the Raiders, what is your, and I'm gonna ask one question from Ed. I believe Mason Rudolph is from your alma mater, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah, him and Barry Sanders.
Okay, I'm gonna ask this one question, and Ed was wondering about Mason Rudolph, but I'll do it right on the next question. But during your time with the Raiders, which team did you? I don't want to say maybe enjoy, or which team was the major nemesis during the time period? Because it always changes depending upon how good our opposition is in the AFC West. But during your time with the Raiders, who would you say was the nemesis of the Raiders at the time?
I don't even know if it come from the AFC, really. I think it was more, I think that the 49ers from the AFC, because we were right across the bay from them, even though we were playing from down in LA at the time, we all knew that if we were going to win the Super Bowl, we were going to get by the 49ers. So on the AFC side, I tell you what, going 12-4, my first year, we weren't afraid of anybody. Our team, when we lined up, we were going to whoop your ass. We didn't care who you were. This is the way it was. Now, it started to move away from that after the first season. Now, after we lost that playoff game to the Patriots, because some of the guys retired, and no longer did we have a Lester Hayes, Mike Haynes, Cliff Branch, Matt Millen. Those guys retired. So you're going to come in with a new hope. And some of those, you don't have. What do you say about, Bob Bukowski? Who was our first round pick that season? Some people call him a bust. I thought he was a pretty good player, but if you have busts like that, whenever you're trying to, replace a guy, it's really hard to overcome. We had Sean Jones, we had Howie Long, Bill Bickel, Greg Townsend. Those were good players.
Yes, sir.
Those were good players. But so was Oh my gosh, my favorite of all time. I'm not going to kid you with this. When I first showed up with the Raiders, I really got a feel for who was in charge. Who was in charge of the Raiders team? I mean, who was the one guy who all the Raiders would rally around? Who, believe it or not, who all of them would look up to? Who was he? His name is Alzado.
I was going to say 3 Mile Lyle. Yeah.
He was special. And then once he retired, Howard Long became the guy. It was Alzado. And you know, Jack Flyward, Brad Van Pelt, Dan McElroy, Otis McKinney. Man, these guys are replaceable. And so you can't just draft another guy and bring him in and hope it's going to work. What you do is you have a great team like that, and you can keep them together for a handful of years so you can plug in a couple of guys and make it go to the top. But Cliff Branch had been there for so long with a great player, and Jesse Hisser came in, and Jesse was a good player, but he couldn't replace Cliff Branch. No way. King and Marcus Allen and Frank. I mean, you just don't replace those guys with, unless you know, look, being a team like ours that was, you know, what do you call it? We were getting the last draft pick every year, not the first one. Listen, we have guys like Brady who go in the 6th round. And that works. Yeah. And it doesn't work for some guys, but I'm just saying, you know, the talent and draft, where Al Davis was really good at bringing guys from other organizations in. Because he knew that he wasn't going to have the opportunity to draft number ones, that he was going to have that opportunity to draft number 30s and 60s. So he did a bringing guys in from other places and making them fit.
Right. Now,
really impressive.
I tell you, Rusty,
yeah, really impressive.
I would be remiss.
Do it the way he do it. Like don't get me wrong. The Cowboys did a great job with it for a good long time. You fast forward to the Cowboys in that great season, with all those great seasons they have. What happened when they brought in my man Jimmy Johnson? Their ass. They went 1-15. They couldn't look like what Gruden did this year. What did you do? This wasn't on Gruden. Think about when you bring in change like this, you got to get people. You got to get people to your system.
And actually,
Johnson knows them. Well, they were going to buy in. And let them all go, and they went 1-15.
I want
Troy Aikman, and then the rest.
Hey,
same thing here with John Gruden. Give him
Rusty.
That's not the problem.
Rusty,
we just need the whole team.
Rusty. First off, I'm having a little bit of audio, so I'm not sure if it's the phone connectivity with the Google. So apologies there. So hopefully try to get a little bit closer. I'm not sure if that'll, because you're waning in and out, and I don't want to have all of these wonderful thoughts lost. But you're making some good points with Gruden. And for real quick, like I said, and I'll get to Ed's question to you about Mason Rudolph. Then we're going to go to the current Raiders situation, and we'll go from there. Mason Rudolph, what do you expect his ceiling to be, or even his floor with Pittsburgh as a quarterback? The fact that you guys are all, both Cowboys together.
Well, I like Mason, player. When is he going to touch the field? I don't know. Is he going to, as long as Big Ben is there? I doubt it.
Well, there was conjecture.
Their best wide receiver.
Right. There was some conjecture today over at Sports Talk that the Steelers might be targeting a swap with the Cardinals, throwing Antonio Brown. Again, this is all conjecture. Throwing Antonio Brown to the Cardinals. There was a Josh Rosen and a third, which would, bring the Cardinals a possibility of them drafting Kyler Murray. Again, this is all conjecture because they know in Pittsburgh, they kind of know that the Roethlisberger era is on its way out. They just don't know exactly when. And between Mason Rudolph and Hobbs from Tennessee, of those two, I think Mason Rudolph is made for Pittsburgh, but he hasn't really had a chance to see the field yet. But if they go with Rosen, it might hasten the departure of Ben. Maybe by next year, he wouldn't be the starting quarterback. But again, this is all conjecture. But you still think that Mason Rudolph has a high ceiling?
Look, I have a limited but it appears to me that he can he come to run a whole franchise? Can he run a whole organization? Only a few guys can do that. So I think his upside is give him all that credit. I'm going to say he's a nice player, and his organization can take him. I really do. I don't know if he could be a guy that would turn around a franchise. Just don't. That's hard to do. Only a few guys in history have been able to pull that off.
Right. Okay. Well, then we're gonna take it back to the Raiders. And again, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't not that I was listening to the folks that were commenting, so that we get to those questions as well. But you said it yourself that John Gruden is making this team his, and it's going to take a little while. What obviously your thoughts of the Gruden regime, Gruden 2.0 in Oakland in their transition to Vegas, and then I definitely want to talk about your triumphs over defeating that nasty menace that begins with a C. But go ahead, Rusty.
Well, first of all, let's go back to Gruden real quick.
Yes, sir.
They point fingers at him. They point fingers. One of them was that trade that was done with Chicago. I don't mind that trade. That's a great player. We all know that's a great player. We got rid of a great linebacker. At the time, that was $120 million. That's a lot. That's an awful. All right, and I think Gruden made the right decision. The right decision. It didn't look like it at the time. It doesn't feel like it at the time. I'll just let's let it play out here. What we're looking for is no prima donna. What I'm looking for is this team back to life under his. They got to buy in. Before Gruden, and some of them are on the other staff. We brought in 6 new staff people. They got to buy into Gruden's system. He needs everyone to buy in. If he does somebody buy in, it's the same thing that Jimmy Johnson had to do with the Dallas Cowboys. They had to get rid of the old regime in order to bring in the new. And now those guys are your guys. You bring them in. Well, there's nothing wrong with the coach. And I'm not saying he's the greatest coach on the planet either. But I'm a Gruden fan. But all cards stacked against that he wants. So he got rid of some people in his organization. Got rid of some people off the field. Now he's got the opportunity to build through the draft and through trade because he's got some. He's got the opportunity to put this thing together, and I think he can do it. And listen, he's not fighting. He's not Davis, how it used to be in the old days. Al Davis would make decisions. You just kind of have to run with them. Well, Mark Davis is not a decision maker. He's not getting in the way. Davis is about selling hats and T-shirts. As a matter of fact, Reggie McKenzie's gone now. Was Reggie in 1985? I love Reggie.
And do you think that
that was good back?
Now, do you think that Gruden
I'm just saying, he needs his overshow, and he deserves that. As much as it's John's team now. He deserves the chance to make it his own.
Right.
This is the first year to do that. So everybody get off his back for a minute. It's hard to to make it. It's hard to get a ship like this to turn quickly. As a matter of fact, I was on an aircraft carrier one time talking to a cat. It took more than 25 miles to get that ship to stop once they had it up to 30 knots.
That's right. And I tell you
It's
what,
not that easy to turn.
Being the old sailor that I am, you are absolutely correct, sir. It takes a long time for an aircraft carrier to do a 180. That's for sure.
Yeah, the guy told me we were to put the thing in reverse the propellers, we create a tsunami that would sink us.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
The real perspective of life, right? You just can't take a huge ship like the Raiders or professional organization and turn that ship in just a couple of days. Now, if we all go back to 1980, and I keep telling you that because Jimmy Johnson was my coach in college. I know Jimmy personally. What happened to the Dallas Cowboys organization when he walked in there and fought? Well, in the first year, he got held like I know about. What did they do? They made a Herschel Walker trade with Minnesota. They were able to bring Michael Irvin and a handful of other guys, and the next thing you know, they win 3 or 4 Super Bowls. That's special.
Yes, sir.
Give John Gruden a chance. I think he can do it.
Most certainly.
After. He's a people person. We all like him. But that's okay. He still knows what he's doing. He's not an idiot. He knows what he's doing.
Definitely so. And I'm glad, because, again, there are too many people that are poo-pooing the Gruden 2.0 regime, and it's unfortunate. But, again, your personal positivities in your fight against cancer, when did you your story, when did you know that you had the cancer? When did it rear itself? And if you could go into some of the trials and tribulations that you've had in your fight against it, Rusty.
Yeah, pretty simple. Look, on Christmas Day, that I passed out in the bathroom and I woke up in a pool of black. We rushed to the hospital. The next day we looked and find out there's a huge tube in my esophagus. And it was passing by. It was trying to shut everything down so I couldn't breathe or eat. Right? To do surgery. But I was a mess. I needed a perspective. So I lined up the biggest cancer treatment centers in America, which is down in Houston, Texas. And I spent about 2.5 months to get there. And up until that point in time, we was having to do everything through. I couldn't eat anymore. So we wanted to do chemo and radiation. Monday we'll do radiation. On Tuesday we'll do that for 30 days. I said I can't make it through that. I'll never be able to live. Most people that do chemo and radiation, and it's no life even if they do. Kicked in Seattle, Wisconsin, kicked in the NFL. Seattle, Atlanta, Pittsburgh Steelers. There's been mentioned guys in California in Porterville, which is where I'm at right now. They have a new product, different. It hasn't FDA approved yet, but I didn't care. I said, is it safe? They said, yeah. I said, how does it work? They said, well, your immune system, because it's your immune system that's actually failed that allowed the cancer to show up. I said, okay, I like what I'm hearing. So I 2 years ago, journey. Now, they approved. And believe it or not, guys, brand new technology, groundbreaking. No herbal botanical approved as a prescription drug. This one is. And so I came to California to try to change the way we treat cancer in America. I've been doing hundreds of people so far, and I certainly want to turn that into thousands. Doctors, they don't understand it yet. But I'm telling you, if you want to live, you want a chance to be cured, this is where you have to go. You cannot, okay, I'm going to tell you 100%. Poison, you can't use radiation, which is burning, and you can't cut it out. If you can't. There's no cure. Chemo and surgery is no cure. They call it remission. You can go in and take a big old tumor out of somebody, but that's not even where the cancer production is coming from. It's coming from someone else. And once it's spread through, no. I opted to take take a chance for 100% recovery ability. I turned around and I started doing it for other people.
Well, I tell
you. And then in July, it became FEB. Well, and that's one product. And now there's multiple products for chemo that actually attack cancer, stops the production its first treatment. And all you need is about 5.
Well, I tell you, if there's any information that you wish to put down at the end of the broadcast, because again, the positivity and the positive results are definitely something that are important. I want to make excuse me. I want to make sure that information gets put out, because again, audio issues. I have you coming in and out, and I want to make sure that is negated in this. So if you want to come back in at a later time in the comments section and positive information of where people should go to look for it, I want to make sure that you get full shrift on that, and that all of the good things that are coming out of that treatment are given to our audience here, Rusty.
That's great. Just have people look up. Keep this in mind. It's not about cancer. It's about autism, Alzheimer's, dementia, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, 150 different disease states here. Same product. I mean, doesn't get any better than this. It's going to change all of America soon. We don't have a build-up. We just have guys like Jerry Robinson and a handful of others who are out there talking about it. This is how it works.
And again,
I'll make a comment
there,
but just look up Rusty Hilger. I'm trying to. It's time. This isn't for everybody. It's just for your loved ones. Having your family, make sure you get them here as fast as possible.
All right. Again, Rusty, I want to make sure that information gets out. Again, I apologize for the audio issues, but a little bit between on your call in, which is obviously the easiest way for you to call into the studio is through the Google Voice. And for some reason, there was some glitches there. Apologies there. We will have you back on at another time as well, so we can make sure that in fact, if we can get you on with that two-time having you and the UCLA product come on, maybe we'll do that again. This way we'll try to work with the audio issues, and hopefully it won't be as much of a pain where people will be able to hear you. For the most part they can, but it was going in and out in some of your dialogue, and I apologize for that, but I don't know why, but we'll try to clean it up on future broadcasts as well.
I think I might talk too fast, Captain Jack.
Well, then we'll have to have you talk a little slower, sir.
It's always voice over IP, man. Anytime you do internet, you have it out, baby. That's just how it works.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, it is. But again, Rusty, I've enjoyed having you on here. Is there any parting shots that you need to make? Then now's your time, sir.
Yeah. Later for life, baby.
Raiders for life. That's the best thing that I've heard all day. And I want to thank you, Rusty. State don't go away when we cut away. I definitely want to talk to you. But again, for all of the folks out here, this has been the premiere show of the Black Shield and Galleon Wheel podcast, where Captain Jack will be talking to some great athletes and hopefully lots more Raiders for my Raider Nation family out there. Although this Wednesday upcoming, we have Willie Roaf, who is a Hall of Fame offensive lineman, most notably with the New Orleans Saints, and then later on in his career with the Kansas City Chiefs. He will be my guest on the show. We will have him on Wednesday upcoming here on this channel, so be sure to be there for that. I would definitely like to thank Rusty Hilger for his time today. There is no better person to start off a positive way with the Black Shield and Galleon Wheel podcast. Again, Rusty, I thank you from the bottom of my heart, sir.
I love it, buddy. You guys. Raiders for life.
Raiders for life. And again, Rusty, don't go away, but I'm going to cut my broadcast off right here. Thanks again, folks. See you next time here, Black Shield and Galleon Wheel. And be sure to come back tonight, 9 o'clock Eastern time, for the You Don't Know Jack About Sports broadcast, where you can talk about any sport with the captain. Hopefully we'll have all your comments coming on. Lots going on this week, including some, as was alluded to earlier, some owner getting caught in a precarious position at a spa. Yeah, use the old air quotes there, but we'll talk more about that later on the You Don't Know Jack About Sports here on YouTube channel with Captain Jack. We'll see y'all next week. Have a good one until then, and we'll see you guys in a couple hours for the other show. Bye-bye.